Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Route Select podcast, where we talk about furry visual novels and their development. My name is Brick, I'm the developer of Silverstone, and I'm an assistant writer on Cleaved. Throughout this series, we're going to be talking to 10 different developers and what drives them to create their visual novels. I'm here with someone that I've known for a while, and who many of you probably know as well. Please welcome Bowser Puma. How are you, Bowser?
Hey, doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm just a bit tired. There's been a lot going on.
Yeah, hear that.
Yeah. So I'm going to do an icebreaker for each guest before we start diving into the actual topics. So, who is your current furry crush?
Current furry crush?
Yeah.
So like fictional character or a fursuiter or could it be any
Fictional
of that?
character. Let's keep it fictional.
Fictional character, okay. I saw a good picture of Amicus today and I've started feeling those feelings again. It's very fluid. So today it's Amicus.
Yeah, we got a classic going on. I actually just started playing Adastra last night.
Oh, hell yeah.
I am being indoctrinated. Alright, so with the topic of Adastra, actually, I believe that's what got you into like visual novel development. Is you used to be a streamer, correct?
Yes.
Was streaming visual novels what got you into creating ChoPro? Like, what were your inspirations, I guess?
Yeah. So to give a little context, I was streaming on this platform called Plexstorm, which is no longer around. And Plexstorm gave you kind of infinite flexibility about what you could stream on there. So it could be very NSFW stuff. So I was able to have free reign to stream Ad Astra in all of its glory. No clever censoring or anything like that. Extracurricular activities was another one I spent a lot of time on. I would finish like one route and then I would go explore other stories and then go back to extracurricular and do another route because there's just so much content in that game.
Yeah, with how big that is, I feel like you'd have to take a break after a while.
Yeah. Yeah, it required breaks, but it was really fun. It was some of the best streams I ever had were reading that one. I touched on Psychic Connections, Dawn Chorus, Killigan's Treasure, a few of the classics that were around in 2020, 2021. Was the time period that I did this. So yeah, a lot of the inspiration I had came from those titles. I'd say probably the biggest influence probably came from extracurricular because there's just so much of it.
Yeah.
It was a vibe and a setting that I really resonated with and I thought would be the most approachable as a beginner writer because I could just jump in. The world building's already done, right? It's just a contemporary setting. You know, we all know how cars and businesses and school works. I don't have to explain that to the audience. So I found that was pretty convenient, and I was just also inspired to just write a story in that setting.
Yeah, for sure. Was there any reason you chose like a music store as your setting as opposed to like a college or something?
Yeah, so one thing I was looking at the time, when there was a lot, it was slimmer pickings back then. It felt like every VN had something very unique going for it. Either it occupied a certain genre space that made it unique, or it had some sort of gameplay element or mechanic that made it unique. So like just kind of a random example, like Temptations Ballads got this map graphic.
Yeah.
That's like kinetic, and it's like really cool. I've never seen another VN do that before. Like Psychic Connections had this fun little like texting graphic, which is a little more common now, but at the time that was the only one I saw that had it, or in the furry VN space. So I kind of was like trying to see where I could edge it and do something unique, and I hadn't seen too many VNs prioritize sound design, and I thought that would be a cool way to kind of weasel my way into the space and stand out a little bit is if I kind of made it attractive because it was something you could listen to. So I wanted to add elements of music and other, sound design elements like sound effects, voice acting, etc. So that was kind of like the first sphere of thought that kind of got me down the rabbit hole with where Chord Progressions ended up going.
Yeah, I think it definitely works in your favor as well, because when it comes to visual novels, it obviously costs a lot of money, and most people, they use like libraries of free music that's out there. Kevin MacLeod was a huge one for a while, and having like custom audio and stuff like that really elevates the experience.
Absolutely. I mean, custom assets in general just elevates it. Like if you're able to get like illustrated backgrounds, that always
Yeah.
makes it a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a process for selecting the musicians for ChoPro? Because I know Martini's in there, but there's quite a few that have helped with chord progressions.
Yeah, I'd say like at this point, it's like been 6 who have contributed so far. So we'll start with Martini. Martini is like the closest thing to a co-creator
Mhm.
that I have. He's been like he and I had been friends for a very long time. We met about 10 years ago, and we got into streaming on Plexstorm at around the same time. And when we were kind of in that space together and exploring this medium together, we're like, we could do this. We could absolutely do this. And Martini is a professional in every sense of the word. He has a PhD on the topic.
Oh, I didn't know
So
that
he really,
actually.
yes, yeah. He and he teaches. That's his main thing. He likes to teach music, and so it's like he really had the pedigree for it. And we passed around some other ideas that were completely different for a little bit. We're talking like, oh, should we do fantasy? Should we do like slice of life, but a completely different topic? And I kind of latched on to the whole like, okay, prioritize sound design kind of philosophy. And I came up with some characters, and throughout the entire process I was getting Martini's feedback. Like as I was getting characters designed, I'm like, look at this one. He'd be like, oh, he's hot. Look at this one. Oh, she's cute. Et cetera, et cetera. And
The casual way that furries like to judge characters.
yeah. Exactly. So he was with me every step along the way, and there's just we didn't even really need to discuss it much. It's like, yeah, he was going to make the music, and a lot of the tunes that he made for me were his first forays into the software that he uses now. He just never really composed much for other projects, so Chord Progressions was kind of like his first attempt at that in some ways. I hope I'm not too off base. I can't think of another project that he worked on before mine.
Maybe they'll let us know sometime.
Yeah. My other musician, who's the other half of the discography, so half of it belongs to RTD, the other half belongs to Axel. Axel's another friend I've had for a very long time, about 10 years. I've known him. He lives around me, so we hang out quite a bit. Not as much as I'd like, and not as much as he would like either. We're busy. But yeah, we've been friends for a long time, and he just really loves composing. He also went to school for it as well. So I just got, the pedigree of chord progressions is unreasonably high in the music category. Got 2 professionals with degrees, so far in this conversation. And he just would go on to his MacBook, use GarageBand, just come up with stuff. He'd send it to me. And there's so many tunes that he sent me where I'm just like, this is fun, but I don't know what the hell to do with it. And then there's other ones he sends me that's like, that's good. That's good. I like either let's like expand on that and like try something, like refine it, that idea, or sometimes I just take it as is. So I'm just like, yeah, sure. Let's do it. Who else? Gonna rapid fire through the next ones. I cannot remember the preferred name, but I know he goes by Himbo Viking. He's a guitarist that I needed some recordings for because I needed someone who was better than me at guitar to play something for a certain scene. And I put a wanted ad out on Twitter, and I actually got a few really good folks responding to me, but he fit the description the best. Then there's Gator Tots, who made one song for me for there's a concert scene in Chord Progressions. He made one of the songs there. I was looking for something kind of like in this electronica rock progressive fusion sort of style, and he really delivered on that. I was really excited to get that piece once it was done. And then on also in that concert scene, the last 2 musicians are Rhythm Bastard and me. We worked together to make a song song called Fuck Around and Find Out, which is performed by a band in the game called Carcinogen. And it's a guitar riff I had been playing around with for years. And he has a lot of knowledge on how to use Reaper, so he was teaching me how to use the software Reaper. I picked up equipment just to record this.
Oh, damn.
Like, I have not used my digital analog audio interface since then. I still have it. It's like I can still use it whenever, but that was like the main reason I picked it up.
It's just sitting in the corner. It'll be used later.
Yeah, it's just sitting on my desk right now. Yeah, I haven't touched it in a while, but yeah, we spent months on that song. It took a long time to get that done. I mean, like, God, that just took so much work. And it's a fun, like, Metallica inspired rock tune. It has vocals and everything, and I was really happy with the way that it came out. And I really like that my musical ideas actually made it into the game, because there was a while where I'm like, do I want to make music for this? And eventually the answer was like, no, I need to focus on other tasks. But I'm glad I was able to get at least one in there.
Yeah, I think it was definitely worth the work as well, because I think Fuck Around and Find Out is probably the most popular song from Chord Progressions.
Probably, yeah. So Rhythm Bastard and I performed that song live at Midwest Fur Fest last year. Yeah. So he likes to go around to cons and he performs, and he's got, this punk rock himbo raccoon situation going on. That's like kind of his brand. And he goes on stage and he performs lots of really cool tunes. And one thing he likes to do is perform Fuck Around Find Out. And it's a song he hasn't wanted to really learn how to play on guitar, because it's a little bit above his skill level to like reliably play live and sing at the same time.
Yeah.
So normally he just sings it without just with the instrumental backing that we developed for it. But for Midwest Fur Fest, we both happened to be there at the same time. So I was able to go on stage and perform that, which was really, really cool. And I practiced so much for that because there is a guitar solo in there that when we recorded the guitar solo, I had to record it in bits because I could not do the solo in its entirety at the time, because it was just too above my skill level. So I had to spend a month just putting in reps so I could play that solo live.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I imagine it was a lot of fun, but yeah, I used to be in a cover band. I know what practicing fast songs is like.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. But onto some more audio stuff while we're at this. Chord Progressions is one of the few furry visual novels that has voice acting in it. It doesn't have full voice acting, but it has like spoken lines in it. It's not like Komorebi is what I'm saying. What inspired you to include that? Was it just overall the audio stuff as well?
Yeah, so I call it partial voice acting, where just certain key lines are spoken. If it's like a line where a character is introduced, or it's a line that has a lot of impact, or it's just a line that like it's one of the first ones in a new build and I just want to remind the readers what this person sounds like. There's no calculus for it. There's no formula I have to establish that. But that said, yeah, that was a big part of it. I kind of developed some voice acting skills while I was reading visual novels live, because I would get into it. I would put on different voices for different characters, and I would like really go hard on some of these voices too, just wanting to just be as expressive as I could because it was fun. And I always thought, if I was going to make one of these things, I would want some voice acting to be in there. Now, what a lot of people ask is like, oh, why didn't you do full voice acting? And it's because it's a ton of work.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's like the voice acting I already do have in there is already in and of itself a lot of work. I usually spend, there might be like 20 lines in every new build, maybe. It might be less than that, honestly. But it takes me like several days because I gotta go through my voice actors' takes, pick my favorite one. Maybe I gotta Frankenstein it a little bit or adjust the pacing, and just make something that sounds good to my ear. And there's no science to it. I don't know anything about sound design on like academic level. I just go off of vibes, and maybe that shows in my work, but I do my best.
As a musician, a lot of times that is just what we do. We just go off of vibes.
Yeah. Because I mean that's what it is. At the end of the day, you're trying to elicit an emotion from your audience, and you either just kind of achieve that or you don't, or and there's like a gradient of success to that metric as well. It's just you never know how on the mark you are until I don't know, people yell at you or they don't. But yeah, so that kind of led me to the partial voice acting. And then on top of that, there's also what I've learned are called barks, which are these little vocal affectations, like a sigh or a grunt or a squee or something like that, that I can just kind of pepper throughout the script. And I think it kind of acts as a nice little glue that sort of makes the soundscape flow a little better and doesn't make those standalone lines as jarring as they could be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think having those to fill the air definitely aids the visual novel, because I think if it was just those lines followed by long silence, people would. I don't want to say there would be a disconnect, but that's kind of where I'm going with it.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like it just, you kind of forget what the character sounds like when you don't hear them for, potentially 30 minutes or an hour or something, or right. So it just kind of helps that. It also helps sell certain lines. And again, like we're trying to elicit emotions from the readers. So again, if I want to really make a scene a little more impactful, maybe I'll add one of those barks to kind of drive the point home.
Has having voice acting chord progressions affected the writing process at all? Or have they been divorced mostly?
It does affect it sometimes. So like, for example, one thing I tell my voice actors is that my script is infinitely flexible. So if they're trying to deliver a line that I wrote and they're struggling with it because maybe the words aren't fitting right in their mouth or something, I tell them they could change the words. And there's been a few times when they've kind of, done a little ad lib, and I just kind of have to roll with it. And in some cases, it kind of morphs how I kind of carry that character's voice through the non-voice acted lines. Like my character Corey, I think is a good example. The voice actor for Corey, Dev, does a really good job with him. He puts a lot of emotion into the character. He also takes a lot of creative liberties with my script. And a lot of Corey's voice comes from Dev's decisions for how he ad-libs and how he brings a personality to the character, which was like, not 100% my vision, but I'm happy to mold around that and accommodate it.
Yeah.
And I think that's been successful.
Yeah, Corey having such a unique voice compared to the other characters because he has like that Italiano accent in there.
Yeah.
I think that like just opens opportunities for ad-libbing in a way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I just roll with it. And then sometimes I have to, when I'm writing lines, I need to be, if they're going to be voice acted, I need to be mindful of how I'm wording things and how impactful I want the language to be. How do I want it paced, right? So like they're pretty intimately entwined. And like if I was doing a fully voice acted situation, it would even be more so. I would say a good like 90% of my writing would stay intact, and the other 10% would be up to the voice actors in a way.
Yeah. Chord Progressions also has a relatively large cast as well. So how does like the audition process come about? Because I know that you've had auditions for characters like Skizzy and Randy and stuff like that. But tell us a little about that.
So when I first started, I did not have an audience, so I was begging people, I'm like, please someone audition for these freaking characters, and I wouldn't get any bites. So I just started messaging people. I messaged streamers, and a big reason why I message streamers is because a lot of them do have some interest in voice acting. But on top of that, it's like I know exactly what your mic sounds like. I know exactly what your setup sounds like.
Oh,
I know it sounds good. So I know you know how to use it. So and that's how. Like I reached out to Beta Ada Delota, and he goes by Rush Husky now, formerly Twitch Dwarf. But yeah, I reached out to both of them, just like I cold DM'd them. I'm just like, hey, you're interested? They're like, okay. And just gave them audition scripts. So that was one thing I had. It's like I had these audition scripts where anyone who was interested would get their pick. They would get to see, like I would have a bunch of different characters, and I would have some lines made up for them. Some of them actually made it into the game, some of them didn't. But it didn't really matter. I just needed to see how the voice actor would carry those lines and how good their recording equipment was. That was another big thing. So like the first time I did it, it was like slim pickings. Like I recruited my boyfriend. I jumped in there. Like I'm Eddie. So a big reason for that is because I just didn't want to hire another voice actor. I'm like, you know what? I could just do Eddie myself. Why not? Funnily enough. But as time went on and the game got a little bit of attention, all of a sudden it's like the inquiries came in and people were like, oh, do you want voice actor? Do you want voice actors? And I had kind of a new crop crop of characters coming up, and I held audition, like my second round of auditions, and I had 100 people respond to me. It was a little out of control, and it was kind of tough because like I had to make some really tough choices, and some of those choices were: do I want to hire the person who like has a lot of clout, or do I want to hire the person who delivers the lines well, or just, you know, I would have like 2 or 3 people who are just such a good fit for a character, and I'm like, how do I possibly pick, you know, these 3 interpretations of this character are just so good, you know, what it was just really challenging, and I don't envy anyone who has to do that process at a larger scale. Like I couldn't imagine sifting through 1,000 auditions or anything like that.
You have to wonder how like Square Enix and all the other companies do that.
Yeah, I mean, so let me describe how it's like now. So anytime I have a new character, I already kind of have a short list of performers who I know would be interested, because I've just kind of gotten myself in those communities where I just know who's streaming, recording, voice acting, etc., and I can just ask them because it's like I know them. So it unfortunately, you know, as much as it would be awesome to like just audition every single time and find like the absolute most perfect person from a huge pool of applicants to give, you know, that somebody a chance who may never get one otherwise, but it's just too hard. It's just too hard.
Just one person looking through all those WAV files. We've talked about chord progressions for a while now, but you also had a hand in a rather popular Maywolf entry, which is Before You Depart. You were part of the collective called Team Lycoris, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Would you like to talk about your role in that and the development of Before You Depart?
I'd love to. I'm going to take a trip down memory lane. It's going to be fun. So my role in Before You Depart was I did the programming end of it. So the only kind of original version of that game exists on my computer, no one else's. And on top of that, I just had fingers in other pies. I did editing for the main script. I helped Arcadia with some of the visual design, although Arcadia was, you know, pretty much had that on lock. Was helping Camazul with the direction of the music, and I drafted Raki, the graphic designer, to come help us with the visuals. So I had a hand in that as well. And I did mention Cetus. Cetus was the writer for this project. So 2023, Maywolf, the very first Maywolf happens, and we're like, I was looking to do something a little different. I was kind of on the fence, but at that point, I developed a pretty good relationship with Arcadia. Cetus was someone who I was friendly with at the time, but I wasn't like, we weren't super close at that point. And Camazul was someone who I only talked to like maybe once or twice at that point. So at that point, Cetus was really motivated to do this because he wasn't making much progress on ICO and he wanted to try something. So he recruited Camazul and Arcadia, and I put like a feeler out on the FVN Discord. I'm like, if anyone needs any coding help, let me know. And Arcadia messaged me and it's like, oh, we're doing something. We'd like you to jump in. I'm like, okay, cool. So Team Lycoris had 4 people. And then after my failed attempt of developing a UI, because I tried to make a text box and it was not going well. It was not going well at all. My Photoshop skills were not that great at the time. And even then, I still wouldn't have been able to make what Raki made. So I brought Raki along, and I was like he owed me some work because from time to time, what I like to do with the people who I work with, who are also my friends, like Raki's a dear friend of mine. We've known each other for many years. It'll be something like I'll drive them to a convention or I'll cover their hotel or whatever, and I'll just be like, you owe me. So Raki owed me. So I'm like, help us with this. So we assembled the Voltron, and we got to work on the writing. Cetus was very productive with that. Like, we had the first draft after a week, and we threw around some other ideas, and like there was one idea Cetus was playing around with that nobody was really vibing with, and then he was like, okay, what about this story about someone dies, there's like the psychopomp situation, but we can like put a twist on it, make it a little romantic and whatnot. I'm like, you know what, that sounds a lot better, and also sounds more in scope, because the original idea would have required many different sprites and stuff, and it's just like how about one sprite? How about like like a handful of CGs. Like, let's not go crazy.
Yeah.
And Cetus made the draft, and this was a rough draft, and the story was a little different. But I read that draft, and it made me weep.
Oh, damn.
And this was before we had any of the visuals or the sound effects or anything like that. It was just the words. The pen on paper is just what drove a lot of emotions for me. And I'm like, oh my god, this is good. I gotta put my fucking name on this. Like, this is insane. So we got to work. I edited his script and was giving him a lot of feedback, and we kind of went back and forth a lot on some writing decisions. Arcadia, Raki, and Camisole also had a lot of involvement with that too. We were all just kind of Cetus's editors at that point. And how I felt about it was the way that everyone felt about it. We saw that script and we're like, oh, okay, this is insane. It was just like, it was full blown, like well-oiled machine. It's just, we all were so motivated to work on this because we knew it was good. And that just really made us super productive that month. And one thing I think is funny too is that Arcadia at first was like, Arcadia wanted to use the default assets for Maywolf. So for those playing along at home, Maywolf will offer you assets that you can use. And Arcadia's like, oh, we should use those. And Cetus was like, no, it's not going to really work. And Arcadia's like, fine, one sprite and like maybe 3 CGs and maybe 2 backgrounds. And then it ended up being like 7 backgrounds and like, there's like 15 CGs. Like, there's a lot of artwork in there.
There's like a full section where it's almost like a comic.
Yeah. But it's funny you say that because, yeah, that's Arcadia's approach to like their visual novel, Hearts Faster Than Light. Big shout out to Hearts Faster Than Light. Yeah. It is structured as a comic. It's a kinetic comic is how Arcadia likes to call it, or kinetic novel. And Arcadia just kind of brought that design or that artistic direction to Before You Depart. So they were really motivated to make a lot of art for this thing. And it shows, like, all the art is wonderful. They were able to pump out tons of pieces and again in a month. Arcadia did all that, and not less than a month, because Arcadia couldn't do much other than the sprites before the story was totally like rounded out. Yeah. And then they also went to FWA, which is in May. So like there was just basically a week where Arcadia was not working on this thing. So yeah, it was like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And Camisole was kind of on the same page. He was developing a lot of the music for it, and a lot of it got done towards the end. And it was the same thing with Camisole. He was like, all right, I'm only going to do a few songs. Okay, one more. Okay, one more. Okay, one more.
Yeah, being friends with Cam, that's totally him.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because there was just some, like, we did a lot of readings of the story together. Like, it all was really coming together about a week before the deadline. And yeah, we were in Discord constantly in voice chat. Like, because I had to do all the coding for it, so I needed to make sure it was presenting well. And we were going over the meticulous little details for, like, that transition should be like half a second longer, or that sound effect should cue maybe like 1 second beforehand. It's just like we were fussing over a lot of details, but we're just so motivated to work on this thing.
I mean, it paid off in the end. It's a very good visual novel.
Yeah, it's very good. I'm very proud to work on that, and the reception from the Maywolf folks, the Maywolf 2023 folks, was really good. We were confident. We were going to do well because there's rankings and whatnot. And we're just like, I think we win. And there's a part of me that I'm like, are we being really pretentious right now? Like, are we? Did we really? But no. I mean, in my opinion, we absolutely did the best, and we got the awards to show for it. We got all the superlatives. So it was the first VN in Maywolf history to win. Hooray! We're proud of that.
Yeah, I think the success of Before You Depart also influenced the future of Maywolf, because if you look at Maywolf 2023 versus Maywolf 2024, the production value is like completely different, because the majority of 2023 used the assets they provided, where there's a lot more custom assets in the later Maywolves.
Yeah, it helps a lot, because I mean, there is something to be said that you kind of get burned out seeing the same asset over and over and over again. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you just have to start somewhere, and maybe that's just where you need to start. Is developing a VN with the default assets, and that's great. And nothing wrong with that. It does help elevate it if you can get custom ones, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't ever want to discourage anyone from not working on a game jam VN because you cannot produce your own assets. Like, just use the ones that are there,
Oh,
and you
yeah.
can still make a wonderful story.
Yeah, 100%. If you plan on joining a game jam, they usually provide assets. I would say go ahead and take them.
Yep. I will say that at the end of the whole thing, like, we just, all five of us walked away with a lot more confidence. I mean, yeah, because we won, but also on top of that, we're just like, damn, we made that in 31 days. Like, we all did that thing. And like, I was challenged, Arcadia was challenged, Kamazul was challenged. Like, he never wrote a waltz. That's one thing he likes to talk about a lot, is like, he never wrote a waltz before writing the waltz towards the end of the story. Try not to give it away, but and I had some coding challenges I had to overcome. There was like a particular scene where there's like a layered song where like there were different instrumentals that were layered on top of each other, and I had to take some away and add another one in. And it was a little challenging at first, but I figured it out. Yacidis had some challenges with like the writing and getting all the feedback from all of us. And then after he was done, he had to kind of sit back and just sort of, deal with, how people were reacting to it. We all did. But it was such a wonderful experience that I'd recommend anyone who wants to jump into a game jam, just do it.
Yeah, as a Maywool 2024 participant, it's a great way to get into visual novels for sure. And if November happens this year, I plan on joining that as well.
Yeah, that'll be exciting if it goes through.
Yeah.
We'll see.
But yeah, obviously you've worked a lot on visual novels. You've developed a lot over the past, is it 3 years or 4 years?
I mean, I've been laying the foundations for it since 2021, so we could say 4 years.
Yeah. One thing you've done is you've used that knowledge to hold visual novel panels at conventions. Was there any reason in particular that made you want to do that?
Yeah, so I've done 3 so far. Anthrocon 2024, Furthermore 2025, and Anthrocon 2025. So the panel I have is called "What Are Furry Visual Novels and How to Make Them?" And the motivation behind doing that is I want to bring furry VN stuff to conventions so bad, because that's our target demographic. All the furries are there, and we're this niche of a niche where it might seem like a big community when you're in it, in the throes of it, but you go to a con and you talk to other furries, people have been around for decades even, and you're like, oh, what's your favorite visual novel? And they're like, what's a visual novel? I don't know what that is. And it's not super uncommon. And I think one of the ways that we can really kind of propagate our art to the people we care about and to the community that help support us is to bring it to where they are, which is at the conventions. So that's kind of why I have my panel structured the way it is. It's what are furry visual novels and how to make them. So I want to show people what it is, because I'm assuming, like, I'm appealing to the lowest common denominator. Like, I'm thinking that some people are just walking in, they have no idea what that is. So I want to show them. I want to recommend some work, and then we can then dive into the how to make it part, where I can help out other people get started. And the second piece to the whole thing is not only just bring awareness of our art to cons, but also motivating people who do like it to make stuff, because the only way we're going to grow as a medium is if there's more work out there that people can enjoy.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right on people not knowing furry visual novels. Like, I think we overestimate how many people actually do read them, because I went to FWA this year and I only met like 2, maybe 3 people that were outside the FVN space that actually knew what they were. There was barely like any Amicus merch, which I was surprised by.
Yeah, I know. And that's one thing I was going to mention, that it's like, I want to see more. I want to see as much Amicus as there is Incineroar, or Bowser, or any other kind of like IP. It'd be so great to have more of that going around.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the ways that furry visual novel developers are able to make money is only if they go through like a big chain chain, like something like Paw Print Press or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, well, I would even say that's not even a great way to make money.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll get a little bit, but most of the money goes towards, Paw Print Press because, they're the ones who are arranging these things and marketing it and everything. Your main source of revenue is Patreon all day, every day.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to, maybe unlock more where, again, we can go to cons and sell merch, and that merch would be like highly sought after and people would want to buy it and we could make money off of it or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. I know I plan to make stickers for when I go to Vancouver next year. I'm
Mhm.
probably gonna take the remainders and sell them myself after that. But yeah, for now, most of the time, the only, I'm gonna say quote unquote reliable income is Patreon and Subscribestar.
Yeah. You need that crowdfunding. And I've tried the merch thing too. I did a homemade merch.
Heck yeah.
Making my own stickers. I have like a little cutting machine that can do like die cut stickers, and I just sell them on Patreon. Patreon's the storefront. Even then, it's not even. It's a little janky.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. But back to the visual novel panels, when you were making your first one, Anthrocon 2024, is that what you said?
Yes.
How did you go about structuring everything for that? Because that was your first panel ever.
Yeah, so the main thing was like I mentioned earlier, I wanted it in two parts. I wanted to introduce VNs to people, and then I wanted to spend the latter half talking about how to make them. So for the first part, it is very basic. I do it in about 15 minutes. I just introduce the idea of what a VN is. I introduce like the basic elements of how it works, just so someone can like look at the screen and see what it's all about. And then I make some recommendations, and then I give a little QR code for like all the recommendations I made in a itch playlist, basically. So anybody who wants to give it a shot, they can. And I had to be a little careful about how I talked about certain VNs because I wanted to make a collection that had a good diversity of stuff in there. I wanted the popular stuff and some more niche things. I wanted a good mix of things that were completed versus incomplete. I wanted good mix of safe for work and not safe for work. So that way there's just like a little bit of everything for everyone, hopefully. At least there'd be something that someone could look at and be like, ooh, that at least has me a little interested enough to scan this QR code and give it a shot at some point, download it on my Android or whatever. And then for the how to make it part, funnily enough, one of the jokes I make during my panel is that Bowser is corporate pilled because I do a 5 pillars of success model.
Oh my god.
But it's a good metaphor.
Yeah.
I start off by talking about the foundation, and the foundation's the scope of the work, and then the pillars are, let's see if I can remember them: team, software, assets. Oh, I'm gonna lose it. Script, and marketing. There we go. Those are the 5 pillars that I describe that I think are important. And there's not any particular order they have to worry about these things. It's just they all carry the weight, right? They're all the pillars, and they all carry the weight in some way, shape, or form. And luckily, if one of them's a little weak, that's fine. So long as the other 4 are strong, you can have a reasonably successful project.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that for sure.
Yeah, and there was a process where I was going through and developing the presentation. I was getting a lot of feedback from folks on the FVN server about, again, my 5 pillars and my recommendations and stuff. Like it's been a while. It took a while to kind of cultivate a good list of recommendations to cover all the bases I described, and then on top of that, making sure that all the advice I was giving was pertinent. I'm not wasting the audience's time, and that's one thing I care about too. I try to get through the presentation in a reasonable amount of time so I could just take questions, because at the end of the day you can bark all of these points at people and it can be very helpful, but usually people get hung up on the specificities. They're like, okay, I have this vision, how do I do that?
Yeah, exactly. I think also having like the recommendations in there, I have the video pulled up now, is a great way to like introduce people to that world and potentially development. You got got like Hearts Faster Than Light in there. You got Soul Creek, which at the time I'm not gonna say it wasn't popular, but it's at like its peak right now.
Yeah.
And of course, you had like Echo and Adastra, of course. And I think just having those vehicles is a great way to, like, in a way, drive them to the second half of the presentation.
Yeah. So one thing I was going to say is I wasn't sure at first what was going to happen when I got halfway through the presentation, and I'm like, all right, the first half's over. I'm going to give people like a minute if you want to skedaddle, if you don't care about the second half. I'm like, how many people are going to actually leave? Is it going to like be like only 2 people? Am I going to clear the room and there's going to be like 4 nerds left? Like, I had no idea. But most people stay. Most people want to stick around for the rest of it,
Oh,
which
that's
is really
good.
nice.
How have you iterated with each different convention? Like, how have you built up the panel?
I actually don't really do too much work on it. It's just kind of brushing up some stuff. Like I've changed the verbiage of a few of my bullet points.
Mhm.
So like, there's a video that you mentioned you're looking at it right now.
Yeah.
That's out there of this presentation. Just Google like furry visual novel Anthrocon 2024. You'll find it. That's pretty much the same presentation I just did back in July of this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I kind of nailed it the first time. I'm not gonna lie. There's not much I really wanted to change about it. In all honesty, I think the main thing I wanted to do was just get through it faster, so I can just take more questions and start facilitating more discussions. And this past year, this past Anthrocon was really great because I had a lot of knowledgeable people in the room. I had Watson, I had Dom Alum, or Dom is how I usually refer to him, and a few other folks who I didn't know by name, but they seemed like they had experience. And I got through the panel piece of it pretty quickly, and it just turned into like Q&A, but also on top of that, people in the room were also contributing their own viewpoints. You know, the folks who are experienced were also contributing their own perspective on it as well, which was really, really great. Like I learned some stuff by the time I was done with it. Like that was a turnout that I couldn't have, like, I wasn't expecting, but I'm so glad happened.
And looking at this panel, you have also provided examples for both not safe for work and safe for work. Within the past 2 years, I would say it's kind of been a point of contention when you mentioned safe for work visual novels, even though there's quite a disparity between the two audiences. And you've been a major vocal advocate for safe for work visual novels, even though the one you make is not safe for work. So how do you go about that? I want to know like how that started.
Yeah. So one thing to know about like the safe for work versus not safe for work discussion when it comes to visual novels is that there's oftentimes a discussion of which one's more successful or which one's easier to make or whatever.
Mm,
And there's pros and cons to both. I don't think there's not a clear answer, because when it comes to not safe for work stuff, it's like, sure, you can do the sexy marketing and that gets people drawn to your work pretty quickly and attached to it pretty quickly. But at the same time, you're very limited on what platforms you can use. And
yeah.
the platforms you can use are rapidly dwindling. Oh no. That's a problem. But with Safe for Work, it's like you have access to all platforms. You could put it on the Nintendo store if you want to, like with Clace's work. He has it on Nintendo Switch. You could download a visual novel right now and
Yeah.
and have fun with it. Winds of Change and what's the other one?
Is it
Cornum?
Komorebi?
I think so. Yes.
I don't remember if major minor is safe for work.
I think it is, yeah. But anyways, so again, there's pros and cons to both approaches, and there isn't a right answer. The right answer is whatever's best for you. So like, for Chord Progressions, not safe for work was the way that I went, and it's very not safe for work. Like you see
Yeah.
a dong within 5 minutes of playing that game. Whereas with Before You Depart, that is completely safe for work, and that just fit that story well. Like we had discussions. It's like, do we want Momentum to have a dong or Memento to have a dong? Do we want that? And the answer was no, because it just didn't fit. And that VN was successful for different reasons. So ultimately, what I want to advocate for is a diverse ecosystem. I want a mix of both things to exist. And there's kind of this, I don't want to say there's a war, quote unquote, but there are discussions and arguments about both sides of this. Some people are kind of upset that there's not very many super successful safe for work titles, and there's some people who who want to see not safe for work elements in what is ultimately a safe for work title. There's a lot of back and forth. And, so ultimately, just my goal with trying to uplift safe for work titles. So basically, the best way I've done this was making a playlist or a collection on itch.io where I basically go around and I just collect the non-pornographic ones. That's what I call it. I don't call it safe for work because that term is kind of nebulous. Non-pornographic is a little more exacting. It's like you can read this and there's not going to be porn. There might be some NSFW type elements, but there's not porn.
Yeah, like Silverstone is on that list, but it's not safe for work. There's going to be violence. It's just non-pornographic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there's a difference, and also there's 18 plus, and so again, it's a bit of a broad category, but it's a little more exacting. That said, I have a decent following on itch.io. I just actually hit 4,000 followers on that platform. Thank you. So whenever you add things to a collection, like your followers see it, and I have seen people like I will add people's projects to my collections, and then I'll go to like the FVN Discord and I'll look at the developer chat. And someone's like, "Whoa, I just got 100 downloads." It's like, oh, okay. I guess I helped with that. Cool.
Yeah, I remember seeing that a lot when I was in there.
Yeah, and on top of also Adam for like the little My Wolf collection and whatnot. But so it's like I have some influence there, and I want to use it for good. And not only do I want to promote a diversity of titles in the space, but I want there to be I want readers to diversify what they're reading.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it. Is what I would say.
Yeah, because if you're nothing wrong with reading the Gooner, quote unquote Gooner stuff all the time. I like it too. I like it too. It's fun. But sometimes it's good to just diversify your media diet a little bit. Get some different perspectives and learn a thing or two, right, outside of what you normally consume.
Yeah, it's very funny because people genuinely think I'm a prude just because of the fact that I make a visual novel that doesn't have sex in it. But it's just like, no, guys, I read this stuff with nudity and sex too.
Yeah, I mean, it is silly. People make weird assumptions about you and your work, and and it's like on the NSFW side too, because people in their media literacy,
oh my god,
this isn't much of a spoiler because if you just know the structure of chord progressions, you would kind of deduce this rather quickly. But there is a love interest route where that is the main character's boss, and I've had some people be like, "Whoa,
yeah,
what are you doing? What are you promoting?" It's just like, it's a fantasy. It's a fantasy. We can take a chill pill.
It's not real life, guys. Separate it from fiction.
Please, just a little bit. And that's the other thing. If you read more visual novels or just consume more media in general, turns out you get a little more media literate. It's fun.
But latching back on chord progressions, if you could start development of chord progressions in 2025, is there anything you would have changed or approached things differently?
So let's frame this as I don't know. I know everything I know now.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. And it's kind of tough to pick out the things I would change because so many of the little oopsie daisies I made throughout the process is what has contributed to what I think is the charm of the game ultimately. But as far as what I would change, I would probably start my build. I would probably go a little more budget with my build one with less characters. And on top of that, I would take a completely different approach to the writing because I was just kind of writing stuff when I first developed the script. And I didn't have much of an understanding of how creative writing worked. Now I understand, okay, there's you've got to think about the structure of it. You have to think about every line of dialogue serving some kind of purpose. You don't want to waste the reader's time with drivel that doesn't mean much in the long run. And just knowing all the tricks to make it quicker. You just learn how to code a little more efficiently as you go along. I would have used Visual Studio from the start instead of Atom. But it's ultimately kind of little things because I do love my project for the way that it is because it is the way it is because of the things I've learned and the mistakes I made. And that's kind of molded it into what it is now. And it's not perfect. And whatever projects I work on in the future, I would hope would be more successful, at least in terms of successful launch and critical reception and things like that. But, I kind of just love it the way it is, truth be told.
I think that's a very good answer. Very sweet. Well, thank you for coming on, Bowser, and sharing your wisdom and past tales with us. Would you like to drop any socials or where people could find you?
Yeah, just Google Chord Progressions VN. That'll take you to my itch page. That's where you find everything. You can get on the Blue Sky. If you must follow me on Twitter, it's there. Um, and all that stuff. And then and you could get to my personal from there as well, and as well as the rest of my team if you're interested in the artwork and the music and all that stuff.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Well, guys, this has been the first episode of the Routes Liked podcast. Next episode, we're going to veer away from slice of life romance towards a completely different genre that we don't see too often. We're going to have Leo of Undefeated fame on. Hope you all have a good day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.